Students, glad to meet you. We are the e-learning of Jaffna Hindi College. Today we are going to learn a new lesson on describing bar charts, pie charts, Venn diagrams and tables, which is a frequently asked question in GC O-level examination on question number 14. It's an optional question, a choice question, whether you can write choose a letter or describe a bar chart or a pie chart. This is the format of question number 14. Let's go through. First one is the bar graph. It's a column, a graph with x-axis and y-axis and columns. Uses horizontal or vertical axis. The horizontal axis is called the x-axis and the vertical axis is called the y-axis to show comparison among two or more categories. One axis shows the specific categories being described. Mostly the x-axis shows the specific categories and the number or the percentage is shown in the y-axis. The y-axis usually shows the percentage or the amount in numbers, right? First, what you have to do when answering the question number 14, describing a bar chart. First, read the title carefully, what they say, what is the graph about or what the graph represents, whether it represents a group of people or an individual, or whether it represents the activities done in the past or in the present or the activities expected in the future. And look at the time frame given in the chart. The time frame decides on which tense we are going to write the description. If it says about an action happened in the past, for example, the sales of computer parts in the year 2000, in the year from 2000 to 2010. If they say so, we have to write it in the past tense. And if it says about the present situation, how the students travel to school, 50% of students travel by bus and 24% of them travel to school by bicycle and 5% of them travel to school by on foot. If they say so, it should be in present. Or whether if it denotes the past and present in mixed, we can use the present perfect tense. Or if they say about the expected sales of, for example, the expected sales of iPhone items in the years in 2025, 2030 and 2035, if they say so, it should be written in the future tense. We can use the passive voice also. These items were sold, like that. You can use active voice or passive voice, but determine the tense according to the time frame they have given. Right. Are you looking at a specific year? Are there multiple years being compared? You should be clear about that, whether multiple years being compared or something in the future. This will help you to determine the tense. And decide what you are comparing, what titles are given to the y-axis and x-axis. For example, the bar chart above compares the leisure time activities of kids between decades. Sometimes they have given the time frame in decades: 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010 and 2020. Sometimes they will give in a particular time frame from 2005 to 2007. So, be careful of what they compare and within what period. Now, let us look at how to describe the chart. First, you start with an introduction. The introduction must contain what the graph shows, what the x-axis represents and what the y-axis denotes, and how many categories are mentioned in the graph. That is enough. 3 or 4 sentences are enough for the introduction. The introduction explains what the chart is about and gives an overview of the main points. So the title comes in the first paragraph, and in the second paragraph, look for the key data. We don't want all the data given. There is no need to describe all the single data. And make sure that you are comparing and contrasting the data. The important thing we have to do is compare and contrast. What we have to do is compare and contrast the data and show a relationship between them. So we have to compare the data given, or contrast the highest, the lowest, the equal amount of, or less than or more than. This makes a relationship among the data. Focus on similarities and differences. First, to do this, you should analyze the chart carefully. And you will need to look for the similarities and differences to decide what can logically put together or not. If you analyze the chart, you can categorize or divide the paragraphs according to the key data given. This means that you don't have to describe everything that you see in the bar chart. Don't describe everything you see in the bar chart. They need only the key data. This means you have to transfer the information, transfer the graphical information into the written information. They expect you to transfer it, interpret the information only. They are not asking you to explain it. Group the data together. Group it. Highest, lowest, the minority, majority, or something else. To divide your answer into 2 or 3 paragraphs. To do this, you should group similar ideas together. Similar ideas should be in the single paragraph, in a paragraph. So the introduction should be in a paragraph, and the key data, what it represents, the majority of group, the minority of students, the equal number of students, like this. The key data should be in another paragraph, and the conclusion should be in the another paragraph. Always provide a short summary conclusion of what you included in your essay. That is the conclusion. In conclusion only, you can add 1 or 2 sentences expresses your view. At last, look here, for example, it can be seen from the chart. This is an example. Overall, 1990s was the best decade for the traditional games during the leisure time. Here's an example for bar chart. What is the title of this chart? The sources of information. And the y-axis shows the percentage. This can be named as the vertical axis. And the x-axis shows the sources. What are the categories mentioned here? The internet, newspaper, books, magazine, TV and radio are the categories mentioned in the graph. In y-axis, it is mentioned in percentages. The words they have given you as most of the students, the majority of, lowest number of, most popular, less popular than, equal or equally. First, study the graph carefully. What is the highest source of information? Read the instruction carefully. The following bar chart shows how the grade 11 students of City Central College get information. So this represents the students of that school gets information from these ways. Study the bar chart and write a description about it. What are the categories mentioned here are internet, newspaper, books, magazine, TV and radio. So the highest percentage of students get information from books. So this is the highest. Which one is the lowest? Lowest number of students or minority of students listen to radio. Newspaper and magazines are used to get information by equal percentage of students. At the same time, internet is less popular than TV because TV 25% of students get information from the television, and 20% of students get information from the internet. This is what you have to gather from a bar chart. Here's an example how to describe this chart. This bar graph shows the sources of information of the grade 11 students of City Central College. The horizontal axis shows the sources of information. There are 6 sources. So first, this is a title is given in the introduction, and then horizontal, what the horizontal axis represents. We can use the verbs such as shows or represents or depicts. These are the words that can be used here. Depicts. The sources of information. There are 6 sources. They are internet, newspaper, books, magazine, television and radio. The vertical axis shows the percentage. This is enough for the introduction. Don't write too much and mess up everything. In the second paragraph, you should give the key data. What is the key data given? According to the graph, the highest percentage first. When we look at a graph, the highest number attracts our eyes. It falls on our eyes quickly. So, talk about or write about the highest first. Highest percentage of students get information from books. It is 30%. On the other hand, the lowest percentage of students get information from radio. So, here we are comparing and contrasting. On the other hand, the highest and the lowest are compared here. The lowest percentage of students get information from radio. Only 5% of students listen to radio. So, the highest and lowest are mentioned here. Then we should talk about the equal amount. The equal amount of students get information from newspapers and magazines. However, internet is less popular than television among these students. Less popular is used here, less popular, less than. Right? This is the key data. This is enough. As a whole, the majority of students use books to get information, and the minority of students get information by listening to radio. This is the conclusion got from the bar chart. The highest, don't repeat the same words here. In the when describing the key data, we use the word highest. So avoid the word in conclusion. In conclusion, we use the word majority. If we use highest there, we can use majority here. So don't repeat the same words. Right. Some tips to write a bar chart, describe a bar chart. The first paragraph is short. Write it in short. It should simply say what the chart shows and where and when it describes. What does it show, where and when it describes is enough for first paragraph. Start by saying exactly what the chart shows and the time period. Exact amount that the chart shows and the time period it denotes. Avoid repeating words in the question. Don't copy the same words in the question. Use a similar word instead of that. Use other words with the same or similar meanings. Describe the trends you can see. Use numbers from the chart. The trend is whether it increases or decreases, or it gets more popular or less popular, like that. About the trends. Compare the information. Talk about similarities or differences between the groups shown. We must talk about the similarities and the differences. That is the important thing when describing a chart. To sum up, highlight the most important things the information shows. When summing up, The most important thing should be in the conclusion. You can also say what is likely to happen in the future. This is your view. You can write 1 or 2 sentences at the end only. Don't write it in the second paragraph where we describe the key data. You can write your own view. That means what is likely to happen, what you think about that should be in the last paragraph, in last line. Don't try to explain the chart, just describe what happened, not why it happened. Don't try to explain why it has happened. Describe only what the table or the chart shows only. Don't describe. They do not expect you to describe it. So, don't give your own ideas within the key data. Here's another example. What does it show? Look at the title carefully. Chart shows the after school activities of grade 11 students of your school. When you are writing, you should change it to my school or our school. Study the bar chart and write a description about it. Right? So, the after school activities, here this is the x-axis, or we can say it as horizontal axis. What does it show? The after school activities, and in y-axis the percentage is shown. What are the activities mentioned here? Sports, reading books, visit friends, gardening and watching TV. The words they have given you is most of the students, lowest number of, most popular, least popular, more popular than, minimum and maximum. You can use these words. No need to use all the words given there. Right? Now let's study the graph. What is the most popular after school activity? It is visiting friends. The most of the students, or the highest percentage of students visit friends, and the lowest percentage of students or minority of students do gardening after school. There is nothing equal, so we can't say anything about the equal number. Watching TV is more popular than reading books. Sports is less popular than reading books. This is what we have to study about. The second highest after school activity is watching TV. Right? Now let's look how can we write it. In the first paragraph, this is the here they have given you some points. You have to make it into paragraph. What is the title of the chart? After school activities of grade 11 students. So you have to write it. This chart, this bar chart depicts or shows the after school activities of grade 11 students of our school. The horizontal axis depicts the activities and the vertical axis depicts the percentage of students, not the number of students. It depicts the percentage of students. The activities mentioned here are, what are the activities mentioned here? You have to write what is mentioned here. What are the activities? Sports, reading books, visiting friends, gardening and watching TV. This is what you have to write in the first paragraph. And in the second paragraph, we have to say about the key data. The most popular activity among the students is visiting friend, and the least popular, at the same time, the least popular activity is gardening. It is, what is the percentage of it? Gardening, 10%. It is only 10%. There is nothing equal, so leave that point. More than. Watching television is more popular than reading books, and engaging in sports is less popular than reading books. This is enough for your second paragraph. And in the third paragraph, you have to give the conclusion. What is the conclusion here? The grade 11 students, most of the grade 11 students visit friends after their school time, and only some students engage themselves in gardening. Here you can add one of your view. The gardening gives good exercise to the body, so it should be introduced among the students. That is your own view that can be added at last. And next is the pie chart, a circular graphical information. Right. Here there is no need to bother about the x-axis or y-axis. Only the percentage is mentioned here, not the numbers. Numbers won't be mentioned here. They will mention the percentage and the categories. This is the past paper question, easy all level past paper question. What does the pie chart describes? The following pie chart shows what the students of your school like to read, the reading materials, what they would like to read. The information is given in percentages. Study the chart and write a description about it. You have to write it as same for the bar chart. In first paragraph, you should give the introduction, the title. That means this pie chart shows what the grade 11 students of our school like to read. And what are the categories mentioned? The categories mentioned here are novels, short stories, poetry, cartoons, magazines and newspapers. So here is no x-axis or y-axis, horizontal axis or vertical axis can't be seen here. So no need to write about them. Then go to the second paragraph with the key data. Here you can see that this is the highest percentage, 30%. What is it? Newspapers. So then what is the lowest percentage? It is the 5%. It is the cartoons. So most of the students like to read newspapers, and the least number of students, least percentage of students like to read cartoons. The equal percentage of students like poetry and magazines. Poetry and magazines, both are 10%. Novels are preferred more than short stories. This is the key data that is from the pie chart here. Next one. Look here how they have described. The pie chart given above shows what the students of my school like to read. This is the introduction with the title. Among the books they read are novels, short stories, poetry, cartoons, magazines and newspapers. These are the categories shown in the pie chart. And in the second paragraph, according to the details given in the pie chart, the majority of students love to read newspaper, which is 30. It is the highest percentage. The minority of students prefer cartoons, which is only 5%. It is the lowest percentage. More than short stories, novels are preferred to read by students. Don't write the percentage for each and every item. The highest, the lowest and the equal amount can be shown with the percentage. Otherwise, don't list everything from the pie chart, the percentage and the item. It will look like listing them. More than short stories, novels are preferred to read by the students. An equal amount of students like to read poetry and magazines, which is 10% each. And the conclusion given here is, this pie chart shows that most of the students are interested in reading newspapers to know the current affairs. Here this is the writer's own view. This is not mentioned in the pie chart, but the writer can say what is likely to happen or his own view at last in one sentence only. Don't try to explain all the thing in the second paragraph. This pie chart shows that most of the students are interested in reading newspapers to know the current affairs. This is the conclusion. Then there is a Venn diagram. It can also be a question in test number 14. Here only the numbers will be used, no percentage. Look here. This is a question from Western Province exam paper. The following Venn diagram shows the different games played by 30 boys of grade 11B. Study the diagram and write a description about their choices. Already you have studied Venn diagram from grade 9, I think so, in mathematics. So you are clear about what the Venn diagram represents. Right. Here, different games played by 30 boys of grade 11B. Right. What are the games here mentioned here? Volleyball, cricket and hockey. Volleyball is played by 15 students. 15 students like to play only volleyball. 8 students like to play only cricket, and 3 students like to play only hockey. 4 students like to play both volleyball and cricket. None of them like to play all the 3 games. Right. According to this Venn diagram, we can say that most of the students like to play volleyball and the least of the students like to play hockey. Most of the students like to play only one game. Right. Now, let's look how they describe it. First paragraph is the introduction. This Venn diagram shows 3 different games played by 30 boys of grade 11B. This can be extracted from the title, from the instruction they have given. We have to change some similar words. Don't copy the same words here. The games mentioned here are cricket, volleyball and hockey. Only 3 games are mentioned. Most of the Venn diagrams are with 2 or 3 categories. So the first paragraph will be more smaller than for the pie chart or the bar chart here. In the second paragraph, the key data. According to the details given in the diagram, 15 students like to play only volleyball and 8 students like to play only cricket, while 3 other students like to play only hockey. At the same time, 4 students like to play both volleyball and cricket. Here you can write that also. None of them like to play all the 3 games. Right. According to this diagram, most of the students like to play only one game, and the most preferred game is volleyball. Most of the students like to play only one game, whether volleyball or cricket or hockey. Only 4 students like to play both games, 2 games. Right. On the other hand, hockey is the least favorite game. The second most favorite game is cricket. This is what we can get from the Venn diagram. And this is the paragraph with introduction. This paragraph gives the key data and this gives the conclusion. So write short and simply express what they say only. Don't mix your ideas or your own views here. And the last one we have to go through is the tables. Tables are also in your question for more than 2 years. Sometimes they will give a table with a single data or with double data. How to describe a table? Start by saying what information is shown. What is shown in the data in the table. If you are writing in an exam, try to avoid repeating the same wording as the question. Don't write the same wording in the question. The table illustrates. Here we use the verb illustrates. Shows. Here we don't use depicts or represents. We use the words illustrates or shows. So start by saying what information is shown. If you And for example, the table illustrates some interesting facts about some of the world's most popular languages to learn. In the second paragraph, give an overview of the most important features of the information. The most important key data should be in the second paragraph. Be selective and choose the key observations and trends. Choose the key observations only, the most popular or the highest or the most common. Don't copy all the single data. Don't have to write about every single detail. Divide your observations into paragraphs about different aspects of the data. According to the different aspects of the data, you can divide the paragraph. The concluding paragraph is not always necessary for table, but if you are following a same format for bar chart, pie chart and Venn diagram, follow the same format for the table also. So you can give a conclusion paragraph for table also. Don't use your own general knowledge. Be careful of that. To give reasons for the data or to add more information than is shown. Don't add more information than it is shown. The question only requires you to summarize and report the data in the table. You should summarize and report the data in the table only, given in the table only. Use a variety of structures to make comparisons. More than, slightly more than, or by far the highest, or as compared to, double the number of, correlation between, or approximating, nearly, equally, roughly, almost, stating what you are referring to in terms of, as for, like that. Right? This is a past paper question in your GCE O-level examination. What does the table shows you? The table tells you where 125 students in your school like to study after their A-level examination. Write a description based on the information given in the table. Use about 100 words. Here, these are the countries mentioned by the students to study after their GCE A-level examination. America is preferred by 30 students. It is 24%. England is preferred by 28 students, it is 22.4%. Japan is preferred by 25%, it is the 25 students, it is the 20%. But you can't write like this. What I say, I am now just listing the data, not describing it. India is preferred by 10 students, it is 8%. India and Russia are preferred by equal amount of students. Australia is preferred by 15 students, and other countries that is not mentioned, the other countries are preferred by 7 students. This is the lowest number. Right. Now let's go how they have described. Right. This table shows where 125 students of our school like to continue their further studies after their A-level examination. Their further studies. This word is added differently from the instruction given. In instruction, they have given you 125 students in your school like to study after their A-level examination. It is changed here like continue their further studies after their A-level examination. So don't repeat the same words in the question. And this is the introduction. This is enough for the first paragraph. And in the second paragraph, according to this table, most of the students like to study in America, while the least number of students like to study in the other countries, which are not mentioned in the survey. The other countries are not mentioned in the survey. So they compared the most and the least in a single sentence in the second paragraph. It is the key data of the table. An equal number of students like to study in India and Russia, which is 8%. So here they mention the percentage for it. The students prefer England more than Japan. Their percentages are 22.4 and 20 respectively. And less percentage of students preferred to study in Australia. They didn't mention the percentage for Australia. There's no need to mention here. And this is the key data that is shown from the table, and the conclusion is the table given above says that majority of the students like to study in the developed countries of the world. The America and England, Australia are mentioned as the developed countries, and they say that majority of the students like to study in the developed countries. In the second paragraph, we used most of the students, and in the third paragraph, we use majority of the students. So don't repeat the same words. It is better to change the wording for each paragraph. Right. This is another table. It is also from your GC O-level final examination paper. The following table shows the amount of money spent during the years 2013 and 2014 by the Friendship Club of Horana on various social service activities. Study the table and write a description about it. This table differs from the table we have studied earlier that contained a single data, and here we have to describe it compare it row wise and at the same time column wise. What happened in 2013 and in 14, and what are the activities, on which activity they spent more money. So we have to compare row wise and at the same time we have to compare column wise here. So it is a different category. Right. The expenditure of Friendship Club of Horana. What are the expenditure occurred? Funding elders' homes, providing dry rations to refugees, disaster relief, sponsoring scholarship for rural children, providing tube wells to dry zone schools, and donating wheelchairs to rural hospitals. These are the activities on which they spent money. And here, on which year it happened? In 2013 and in 2014. Right. When overviewing this, we can know that they spent more money on funding elders' homes in 2013 and in 2014. But in 2013 they spent only 3 million, and in 2014 they spent 4 million. So there's a slight increase of 1 million. And right, the least amount of money is spent on providing tube wells to dry zone schools. It is 1 million in both years, and equal amount of money is spent for disaster relief and donating wheelchairs to rural hospitals in 2013 and in 2014. That's enough. No need to compare all the single data. So the key data is this: the highest, what is the increase there, and what is equal, and what is the lowest one. So here you can see how they describe it. The table shows the amount of money spent during the years 2013 and 2014 by the Friendship Club of Horana on various social service activities. This is the title they have mentioned there. The expenditure occurred by, these are the on which activities they spent money is here. What is the expenditure? Funding elders' homes, providing dry rations to refugees, disaster relief, sponsoring scholarships for rural children, providing tube wells to dry zone schools, and donating wheelchairs for rural hospitals. These are the activities mentioned in the first paragraph. And in the second paragraph, the key data, the most amount of money was spent on funding elders' homes. 3 million rupees was spent in 2013. They are comparing it column wise here in 2013, and 4 million rupees in 2014. This shows an increase of rupees 1 million. The least amount of money was spent on providing tube wells to dry zone schools in the year 2013 and in 2014. Here they are comparing row wise and at the same time column wise. An equal amount of money was spent on disaster relief and donating wheelchairs to rural hospitals. Here they are speaking about equal amount of money. There was a decrease in expenditure on providing dry rations to refugees in 2014. There is a decrease in providing dry rations. As here, there is a decrease of 1 million from 2013 to 2014. That is said here. And now the conclusion is that this shows that the Friendship Club of Horana involved in social service activities and spent more money on funding elders' home. This is the conclusion here. Right? Now we have studied about how to describe a chart, bar chart, pie chart, and bar chart, pie chart, Venn diagram, and the table. How to describe them? First study the chart carefully, then organize the points, gather the key data in the second paragraph, give the introduction in the first paragraph, and give a conclusion in the last one. Only they need the description only, no need to explain things one by one. Best of luck. Thank you.